The Golden Knights traveled to Denver tonight to meet the Avalanche. We will talk about Saturday's win, and that is in the distant past of sorts, and we'll talk about that against Nashville as we close out 2022 and our predictions and much more ahead.
You're Locked On Golden Knights, your daily podcast on the Vegas Golden Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hi again, everyone. Tony Cardasco and Chris Golick from Las Vegas. Welcome to Locked On Golden Knights. You can find us on Twitter at LockdownVGK, at Tony Dasco, at TD Chris G, and of course, our YouTube channel, Locked On Golden Knights. Please subscribe there. And Chris, before we get into the meat of things today, we have to take this opportunity to thank all of our listeners from the podcast side from this past year, as we had 98,288 downloads. Wow, that is mind-blowing. And we'd like to thank all the listeners and everyone for the support of Locked On Golden Knights.
I'm sure we're well over the 11 or 12K mark for the YouTube side as well. So that's over 100,000. So that's like I said when Tony put the tweet out yesterday or the day before, that it's just a number I can't wrap my head around. It's just crazy to think that many of you, whether it's 2 or 3 minutes or the entire show, just give us that much time of your precious time. There's one thing me and Tony know: there's not enough hours in the day. So it's tough for us to find time to do this sometimes. And I can't imagine how your daily lives are. And the fact that you got a few minutes for us, it means a lot. And just thank you. And looking forward to more and more in 2023.
200,000 this year. Okay. So VGK starts off the New Year's in Denver. Tonight they travel to take on the Avalanche. Avs not doing so well since we last saw them. They are losers of 3 straight. But at least they get Nathan MacKinnon back. He returned against Toronto.
You say like that's a good thing, Tony. It's not a good thing for us.
Well, when VGK starts whining with the 60 or 70 man games lost, Colorado has nearly 200 man games lost already this season. And guess what? They're doing pretty well at 19-13-3.
Right. Yeah, no, just looking up and down the stats, like you said, losers the last 3 in a row. They're in an unfortunate position there.
Can we call it a funk? Can we call it a funk for the first time?
Definitely. Copper's got 22 points. MacKinnon still has 34. It's 34 points in a limited amount of games played. I mean, what I see the other day, I know Edmonton doesn't come till next week, but Connor McDavid is sitting at like 72 points already. Dear God, that's just crazy. Cale Makar is doing what Cale Makar does, sitting at 34 points. Mikko Rantanen, 45 points. But what I'm going to point out here, Evan Rodriguez, 16 points. That was a player that was picked up. Oh, I took Tony's. I took it. And I mean, he just, from the word go, Rodriguez has been helping that team tremendously with all the injuries. And, that's a trade deadline acquisition type of player that helps you win a Stanley Cup. So, Tony, go ahead. I'm sure I just took some of your thunder.
Oh, no, it's Kessel or Rodriguez. We wanted Rodriguez at the time. And we weren't even mentioning Kessel.
Well, Kessel was never a thought because we thought he was going to be too expensive. That was my perspective, at least.
Okay. But Rodriguez definitely would have been
$2 million.
A good player to fit in. $2 million. Remember, bargain basement, we were whining. And so the first meeting between these two clubs back in October, the 22nd of October, it was a 3-2 final as Valerie Nichushkin scored the game winner, and Stevenson and Marchessault scored goals for the VGK, if we remember correctly. And I remember the Avalanche playing 3 games in 4 days. And here's an odd note on this series. The road team has won 5 straight.
I mean, the way things are going at T-Mobile right now, that's not a surprise, except this goes back to before it became a surprise with what's happening with the VGK at T-Mobile Arena. But, it's just a weird quirk, and you have 2 very tough teams that play each other very well. And that 6-game playoff series a couple seasons ago was an absolute epic series, in my opinion. I mean, just going back, taking a walk down memory lane, VGK is looking down the barrel of being down 3-0 in the series. And then that just remarkable third period that sees Marchessault score a goal from behind the net, and they ultimately win the game in regulation. And like that was a turning point where I felt that team was going to make a run to the cup. And then the ever so tough Montreal Canadiens whatever. Moving forward. I'm getting mad, Tony. I'm getting mad already.
Goaltending has not been that good. I always questioned, because I'm a Ranger fan, the acquisition of Alexander Georgiev. And since the Christmas break, the Avalanche 0-3, and Chris Georgiev, 14 goals on 83 shots on net, 14 on 83. And they pulled him for Jonas Johansson there against the Maple Leafs in the last outing. And so they're not getting great goaltending. And I'm guessing that they'll go back to Georgiev tonight. I would have to imagine he's the number one goalie.
So let's talk about trends really fast. You said all the goals given up. So I just took a quick look at December really fast. Going back to December 7th until the 17th. I'm sorry, the 7th until before Christmas break on the 23rd. No more than 6 goals collectively on both sides. That was the Buffalo game on December the 15th for Colorado. And then everything else was 5 goals or less during that stretch. And then after the Christmas break, Arizona, they lose 3-6, 9 goals. The Kings, 9 goals in a 4-5 losing effort. And then 6-2 against the Maple Leafs. So whoever was in goal those 3 games doesn't play goal. Doesn't play goal 14? Tonight. They
finally pulled Georgiev. Fans were complaining that Georgiev should not have been in net.
I was surprised that Lankinen, not to jump ahead, but then Lankinen went back to back in the series with VGK. Something didn't make sense with that, but that's another. We'll get to that in the next segment. So what do we got here? Pavel Francouz, and then
is he Jonas
out? I don't know. That's where I'm looking. I see Jonas Johansson on the roster as well right now. So
yeah, he's the one that jumped in there. He was the backup goalie, so I'm guessing Francouz is hurt or something. I didn't quite see that. But
great, we get a goalie who's not been tested a whole lot, that has no film, and that never spells good things for the team first time around, right? But when the film comes out, like we talk about LT, things change a little bit.
Since we last saw the Avs, they had a trade back in December before the freeze. Dryden Hunt goes to Toronto for Dennis Malgin. And again, injuries. The latest player that could be back tonight, I don't know. But Darren Helm had started to skate, I guess, over the weekend. We might see him. And here's another statistic for you. And I hate to just throw out numbers first thing in the new year, especially. So the Avalanche have not had a lead at the first intermission since December the 10th against the Rangers. And they've been outscored 8-1 the last 9 games in the first period. There's one of your keys right there. I mean,
right there you go. The shelf life of an NHL coach. This is scary, right? I mean, can we go from Stanley Cup winner to starting to talk about the coach here? And I mean, as goofy as it sounds, that's not that goofy in the NHL. Every 2.5, 3 years. I mean, the VGK average is right at 2.5 years. The McPhee average, going back to his Washington days, is also 2.5 years. So, I mean, at some point, just the coaching carousel spins and spins and spins. I'm not saying that's why the Colorado Avalanche are struggling right now, but if it continues to happen in the next season, I mean, hey, let's see. Gerard Gallant might be starting to get his time washed up a little bit with the Rangers. Is Gerard? Here we go. Bookmark, time capsulate this one. Gerard Gallant is the next coach of the Colorado Avalanche in 24-25.
Wow. Okay, so should they take the Avalanche serious? Is this still going to be the same type of matchup and rivalry that we've seen in the past? Again, a lot of different parts. And every time, the VGK fans, Chris, start complaining about, games lost with 60 or so, 3 times more for Colorado. And guess what? I have not heard a ton of complaining. Yeah, exactly. But I haven't heard a ton of complaining from Avalanche, their fans. The cards are dealt to them. They won last year. Is this when they're 100%? Can they go back to back?
season 2 for VGK, there wasn't a lot of complaints either because of what happened in season 1. And, season 2 ended in dramatic fashion with the not a major nonsense and everything. And what happened was the fact that they made that incredible one in season 1 overshadowed the absolute horrible coaching effort by Gerard Gallant, in my opinion, which is why the San Jose Sharks were able to defeat the VGK in that first round, not the Eakin major and all that nonsense. That was actually a very minor part, in my opinion, of the outcome of that series. But point being is when you're winning, you get foggy, Tony. It's something you haven't had in a while. So good job in getting that fixed. But winning cures the fog, everybody. Winning cures the fog. And in Colorado, a lot of injuries, and it seems like more than the VGK, and maybe even more notable in the fact that Nathan MacKinnon is one of the top 3 or 4 talents in all of the NHL. But again, they did win the Stanley Cup last year, so they're still riding that high right now. And VGK, on the other hand, very bad luck last year with the injuries, with the system, with everything that happened in the offseason, with DeBoer being ridden out of town and all of that. So the VGK faithful, we're a little more sensitive right now. We're on pins and needles as we are concerned. Like, this is such a weird time right now. We are this close from going off the cliff to being a team that will not make the playoffs, to being even closer to a team that has the ability to contend for a Stanley Cup. Like, this is really such a weird time. And I think the months of January and February are going to point, like, I don't think this is the type of team that's going to like make it through the first round and then like lose 4-3 to a decent team, right? Like, I really feel like we're going to fringe, not make the playoffs if the injuries add up and the bad things continue to happen. Or if we return to health, I think we are a conference contending team right now that can win the West and, be in the Cup. And it's crazy. It's really such a remarkable situation the VGK is in right now. And you add the fact that, we're a little nervous from last season. It's, it's going to be a fun ride.
Coming up next, we'll take a look back at this past Saturday's game against Nashville. We'll take a look at everything that's happening on the injury front. We'll have some updates for you. More
it's only a 45-minute show. We need more time for that.
On Locked On Golden Knights, I want to tell you about the importance of multivitamins. Tons of people take some sort of multivitamin, and it's very important to choose one with high-quality ingredients that your body will actually absorb. We're talking about AG1, Athletic Greens, a small micro habit with big benefits. It's one thing that you can do every day, every single day, to take great care of yourself. Your subscription comes with a year's supply of vitamin D, which is so important, especially for folks not here in Vegas, where the sun does not shine. The fog comes in here at times. But in any event, of course, Athletic Greens, I take it. Chris as well. Don't have a lot of time here, as he mentioned, here in Vegas, always on the run. I've been taking it myself for about 3 or 4 months now. So it's really working. And one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you can absorb 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source, superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens, which get your day started on the right foot. And also, getting the year started on the right foot is very important as well. It costs less than $3 a day, and you're investing in your health. And it's a lot cheaper than your cold brew habit. There's a lot of testimonials out there. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is go to athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and to pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Welcome back on Locked On Golden Knights. Tony Cardasco and Chris Golick from Las Vegas. We appreciate you all tuning in. Make sure that you check out the YouTube channel, Locked On Golden Knights. Let's have a big year there. Please subscribe because you want to see these mugs. First thing, well, Chris has 2 mugs, his face and the mug he's drinking his coffee out of. And so let's go back to Saturday, the win against Nashville, the OT win by VGK on the Nick Hague blast. Golden Knights win that game. And now, we saw the Kings closing in. It was just a 2-point margin. The Kings, man, they really tripped up, losing to the Flyers at home on New Year's Eve. So it
loses to the Flyers.
Oh, that's really
Who loses
bad.
to the Flyers at home, Tony?
And Philip Forsberg, again, game-tying goal, 5 seconds to go, had the hat trick. Did anyone throw a hat on the ice?
Yes. there was one hat that immediately went onto the ice when it happened.
Okay, I was just curious. And did Nashville travel well? Because they typically do travel, but not for the holiday break, right?
So, I mean, not compared to what I see in other teams. And there were some people lining the sides, like for warmups and things like that. There were some Preds jerseys, and not didn't really interact with any Preds fans. Like there weren't really any around us. It was a fun crowd though. Didn't seem to be as many empty seats as expected. And you're watching on Access the amount of tickets that are left before the game. And I looked Friday night, and there was a lot less than a normal game. So you knew it was going to be a fun environment.
Okay, I want to get right to the meat of things here and talk about Brady McNabb and the hit. Okay, so Mark Jankowski skating down the boards. Again, not looking up, and your head's supposed to be up, as we know, right? And so he gets blasted. A left shoulder goes to the head of Jankowski. Today, do we see this as a review with the NHL Safety Board? And again, oh my goodness, but though McNabb, they got to get a fighter on this team, because McNabb, I thought, just got wiped by Jakob Trenin there. And talk about the difference. I know that you want to get into this. Now put your referee cap on. The difference between game misconduct and match penalty.
Yeah, so I've been trying to research this just to get the official meaning. So at my USA Hockey Beer League level, match penalty is a mandate, and the referee can assess this on the ice when it is a situation that warrants it. A game misconduct means, for lack of a better term, you got in a fight, you pissed off the referee, you did something inappropriate that gives you, there you go, Tony, that was me last week right there. Hit that mute button. I know exactly what you're up to right now. You give a game misconduct, get off the ice, whatever. We'll see you next game. Let's move forward. A match penalty at my level is a mandatory 30-day suspension that can be reviewed at any time. But if a review is not given, then you're gone for 30 calendar days of competition. At the NHL level, a match penalty simply means that you are suspended until the commissioner has had an opportunity to rule on the infraction. In this case, obviously, the Department of Player Safety would be the review. So I checked Department of Player Safety. There's nothing on their Twitter about this being reviewed.
They wake up late. They wake up late, man.
Right? Yeah.
It'll be this afternoon if it happens.
Not to make light of it, but they say when New Year's falls on the weekend, don't get a DUI because you don't get the judge until Tuesday. I get it, but in watching Bruce Cassidy's press conference, Cassidy is preparing for McNabb to be playing tonight right now. Now, is this lip service saying, "Oh, I don't think this is that big of a deal. They're going to move forward and not suspend him"? I don't know. I mean, that there could be some gamesmanship happening there. The Silver Knights played last night here in Henderson. Colorado's a short trip if they got to send someone else there in his behalf, unless they're just going to play 5 defensemen, which this team is an expert at doing nonsense like that, unfortunately. But looking back at the hit, live real time, I couldn't catch it right away, but I heard the ref say match penalty immediately. Wes McCauley immediately called a match. Like, it wasn't a major review turn match. It was match on the ice. And then it was a very short review, match penalty, goodbye Nabber. And talk about a couple things. One, McNabb was trying to line him up for one of those epic hits like he always does, where he just puts his hip into you and he just wipes you out. In this case, the Nashville forward, I believe, he kind of had his head down, like you said, Tony. And he was like leading with his head, like literally leading with his head, and McNabb caught him. It was not a dirty, intentional hit. McNabb is probably the cleanest big hitter in the game as far as those hip checks and things like that goes, and the way he lines his hits up. McNabb's a big dude, hit a guy with his head down. It was an irresponsible hit. Don't get me wrong. Like, we're not going to say McNabb should not be, whatever penalty is coming, he should get something. I think, I feel like a game suspension is called for in a spot like this. And again, nothing against McNabb. And that's what's also going for McNabb. I don't think he's ever been suspended before. Don't think he's ever had a hearing with the Department of Player Safety. So if this does go to that status, they might look at this and, let him off with a warning, and, the old Willie Hayes, treatment. Don't ever F and do it again, Hayes, something like that. So, right call on the ice, 100%. Right call for the Nashville player to get the instigator penalty, who just jumped McNabb. So, I immediately looked at the people behind me, and I think I put a tweet out. It said, there's got to be an instigator on this. So, weird. unfortunate interaction. I know McNabb he probably already apologized to the guy after the game for what happened.
Okay, so it was a split-second hit. Okay,
No doubt.
We get all that. However, it appeared as though he pushed his left shoulder like right into the face of Jankowski. Okay, I mean, split second or not, okay, it's not intentional. No, there's no intent there, but perhaps he will see a suspension of 1 game. Last time NHL player safety tweeted out was on December 23rd.
23rd.
Yeah, those stinking bums. I told you, and they'll sleep in late today. If we get a decision, it'll be afternoon because those guys are just lazy. So anyway, okay, we want to talk about who was called up. We have Brian Fraz was called up, and Caden Korzak was called by the VGK. Alec Martinez, who was on the ice skating the other day, remember he played with the broken foot.
Yeah.
in the playoffs and still led the NHL back in 21. He still led the NHL with block shots in the playoffs, which is incredible. So we know he's got a foot injury or ankle, and so they send him to IR. Paul Cotter might return. He's day to day. He could be back. He's going to be on the trip. We heard Jonathan Marchessault. Okay, he goes on the Los Angeles trip, and now they say he's back in Vegas today. So I just sometimes wonder if they are not cooking the books, but just playing some sort of mental games, or I don't know what they're doing. No Maramonov. I was watching your tweets. I was out at the basketball game and watching the game and basketball at the same time. And I saw your tweets as well. And so he gets hit with the puck. And so he's out now. So how does this affect the team? Korzak will be playing for the first time, right? Should be in the lineup tonight.
With McNabb, I believe, according to Cassidy yesterday.
Okay, and then Fraz, this won't be his first venture playing in the NHL. I think he's been called up before when he was a late call-up from the AHL in one of his previous.
He played with some games with Tampa, Montreal, Calgary. First time in the new year. Has been, geez. Okay, you ready? So let's just talk as ace. So Rockford, he was a Toledo Walleye back in Rockford. Cincinnati.
Was he a Marlin? Was he a Marley or whatever? Not a Marlin.
San Antonio Rampage, back to the Cyclones. Marlies,
yes.
Maple Leafs, Marlies. Syracuse Crunch, Tampa Bay Lightning,
Bell
Rockets, back to the Canadians, Leaf Valley Phantoms, Stockton Heat, Silver Knight. Yikes. He's well traveled, friends. He's got quite the jersey collection. But I think we are looking at Brian Fraz. I think he is just in case Paul Cotter doesn't go tonight. He is the insurance policy right now. And the reason why I think this is simply an insurance policy is Rem Paul, who does have a lot more experience and a lot less jerseys than Fraz does. Rem Paul played with the Silver Knights yesterday. So there's not a world that exists where Rem Paul is going to play Saturday for the VGK, Sunday for the HSK, and then Monday he's going to make the trip to Colorado. So I think Fraz is simply the just in case Paul Cotter cannot go for some reason at game time. Otherwise, they would have kept Rem Paul up and, done that swap if there was more of a chance of Cotter not playing. So that's my between the lines perspective on that one. What I wonder is if for some reason McNabb does get the call today for a suspension, who's the sixth defenseman going to be?
Okay. That's a big question, but I know that on Saturday, I think you were one of the first ones that I saw pointing it out. Wasn't VGK down to 3 defensemen at one point?
So we lost McNabb for the match penalty.
Okay.
And then right at the end of the second, Miramonov blocks a shot. Shocker. Okay. VGK defenseman blocks a shot. And he's literally laying right in front of Logan Thompson. Logan Thompson trying to scoot him along, trying to help him along.
No. You need guys in front of the net. Leave them there.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'm watching Miramonov skate to the bench and he looked bad. He looked bad, unfortunately. He gets to the tunnel and he is literally helped off. So right away, I'm tweeting this stuff out there just as a fan hanging out, and no one else is really even talking about it in the media side, which I found interesting. So the third period starts, and this would have been my question to Cassidy if I was covering the game officially, but third period comes out and I took a 45-second video of Miramonov. It's on our Twitter if you scroll back to my action on Saturday. He looked so bad. He looked worse than Jack Eichel in that one game in the warmups, trying to stretch it out, right? And I immediately said to Christopher, my son, and the people around us, I'm like, guys, Miromanov looks bad. Something, he's not, this isn't right. And I noticed Pietrangelo took a second shift. I noticed Haig took a second shift. Hutton took a second shift. I'm like, okay, there's no way Miromanov's coming out. And so right away I'm tweeting this out, and like no one's even like catching on to it and stuff like that, which was kind of strange. But my question to Cassidy would have been, it was pretty clear that Miromanov was not going to be playing in the third by the way he skated around. And obviously a couple shifts into the third, you knew he was not going to play. What was his purpose for being on the bench? Was it simply some fog and mirrors, Tony? To hopefully at least buy some time from the for the other coaching staff to catch on, or was he available? God forbid we drop down to 3 defensemen or something weird like that happened. And here's the other thing that I thought. I put this tweet out there with about 10 or 12 minutes left in the third. After every whistle, someone should have been going after our defenseman and just tying him up and trying to draw a coincidental roughing penalty. Take him down to 3 defensemen. Like, I'm not saying Nashville should go out and injure someone like Nick Haig or Ben Hutton or anything like that. But there was this, I think 4 or 5 minutes left. Someone might have taken a little whack at Logan Thompson or something like that. And Ben Hutton starts throwing punches. I thought they were going to put Hutton in the box only. Like, so Nashville, I think, missed an opportunity to take advantage of the situation. And, as far as Miromanov goes, I mean, he was having a game, right? He got that, he put the puck perfectly on Keegan Colasar's stick, so Colasar didn't have to move it and get a goal. There you go, Tony.
Wait a second. You talk about an accidental goal. Like he's just standing there.
Hey, but right place, right time. Start by giving him credit, Tony. Yeah, give him credit for being there.
Okay, I'll give him credit for being in front of the net. And
give him credit.
Yeah, okay, so we'll talk about that at another time. But this VGK team, do you think yesterday in the presser that perhaps Bruce Cassidy got a little bit too technical on talking about players?
Oh, God. The defensive zone and where they should stand. Listen, I like it. He gives us so much. And I might make my debut as a 8 and under house league head coach this Friday. I'm still waiting for the call to coach my son's team.
You're getting the call up? You're getting the call up?
I think I'm getting the call. So I'm waiting, and I'm going to take everything. I might even fire in the presser. Hey, coach, I need some advice here. My kids in this league, we don't keep score on. We're having trouble making entries. What do you recommend at the 8U level? And we'll see what kind of response we get. That'll be a make or breaking moment for Golick, right? We'll see if I get my credential approved for the game after that.
I want to talk about Logan Thompson, and he is getting beaten repeatedly to the short side. Okay. I still see some slippage in his game, and they're doing a good job of
thinking about the goals. That's why I'm looking up right now.
Forsberg goal, like nobody was out in front of the net to check him. So he goes from left to right and goes around and then gets a little, air on the shot. And then he lifted it up and puts it over the pad of Thompson. And there were two goals to the short side.
That sounds about right. I couldn't see him terribly closely. And normally if I'm not at the game, I'll watch the game recap, but I was at the game, so I really didn't watch too closely on those. And sitting back in 217Q, we don't necessarily get the best view on things like that.
Okay.
One thing I want to say before we get too far into this, I do want to just say this, in my opinion, was one of the best VGK efforts of the entire season. They started okay, 2 unfortunate goals, that's our theme lately, unfortunately, but 4 unanswered goals. The team responded. They had a great second period as well. The team finally seemed to get things clicking, and they had that home ice mojo, whatever you want to call it. And then losing 2 defensemen, and it was almost a fairy tale ending, right? Making it out of regulation with the victory. But the fact that, and here's the other thing I'm wondering about, how did Nick Haig get out there in overtime? I'm assuming Nick Haig was the extra attacker, because even with 4 defensemen, Nick Haig is not someone I would anticipate that goes out there in the overtime. I think Nick Haig might have been the extra attack. Again, I'm not 100% sure, but I think Nick Haig, for whatever reason, might have been the one over the boards. And then obviously he lined up that Hager bomb, and the rest is history. But, this was an amazing VGK effort, by far the most hunger, determination, heart, whatever cliche term you want to use. I was very proud of the way this team played that game. And it was a very fitting ending that a defenseman was able to rescue the game in overtime, given that they were down to 4 defensemen. So wonderful effort. Very pleased with it. It's the first time I felt good, like really good about a VGK home effort in a long, long time.
Yeah, and I just wanted to also talk about Bruce Cassidy was discussing why teams today, a 2-goal lead is not secure, right? In the National Hockey League.
More offensive talents. Yep.
Yeah, more offensive talent and fewer stay-at-home defensemen. So you have your defenseman in on the rush, which I think is a very good point. And that's why, fans, perhaps that's why there's more scoring in the NHL today as, compared to the way it was back in the day. So
the dead puck era is not a thing anymore.
No.
We're out of that.
When we return, though, we'll talk about our dead picks. Or no, we don't have dead picks. We've got good picks coming your way, our predictions, and much, much more. Our lock of the night. Stay with us right here on Locked On Golden Knights. Welcome back to Locked On Golden Knights. Tony Cardasco and Chris Golick from Las Vegas. And make sure that you check us out on YouTube. You can subscribe, Locked On Golden Knights. And please make sure to follow TD Chris G on Twitter, because especially on game nights, he's got the best insight, I think, of anyone that you could follow on Twitter for the VGK. You do. You've got some great insight. And again, like I didn't see anyone else reporting about VGK down to 4 defensemen, and a lot of other nuances in the game. So great job there.
Thank you.
I'm not, I'm not trying to stroke you here early in the year, but good job. Okay. So
hey, I'll take it.
Okay. So prediction time. First of all, locks of the night. I'm going to go with KK and KK. Keegan Colasar.
Oh God.
And Caden Korzak. He could not get out of the way. He was just
you got a score for us too, Tony, while you're up to your shenanigans.
Okay, so again, we've got the visiting team winning the last 5. But I am going to buck the trend tonight, and I am going to go with the Avalanche. It has to be a high-scoring game, and I'm going to say 6-4 Colorado. I think it's a high-scoring game. We don't get anyone off of a back-to-back. Oh, my goodness. It's so stinking rigged, man.
Who's the goalie going to be tonight for VGK, by the way? We never even touched on that. Who do we think?
Because it's going to be a high-scoring game.
I think Hill gets the call tonight. I really do. I think Hill gets the call tonight.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Hill as well. I'll go with Hill. I think he'll be in net. But again, just keep in mind that it's been since early December since the Colorado Avalanche have had a lead in the first period. They've trailed every single game, and the first goal has been going to the opponent. So tonight I'm going to take. Can you take the Avs to score first too? It's going to be plus money. I'll take that as well. 6-4 Avalanche.
Yeah, they don't give you a lot of love on that in the book as far as getting the juice on that one. I like Pahal's game lately. I really like Braden Pahal's game. He has been buzzing around as a defenseman who is gaining more and more confidence on the other side of the blue line. He's getting a lot of quality chances. So I like Pahal to get on the scoreboard somehow, some way, goal, assist, or otherwise. So Pahal, and let's stick with the defenseman. Let's stick with Petro. Let's go with the defenseman. So I'm going B, like a BP energy thing with Petro, BP. All right, so we're going BP and AP. How's that? BP and AP, and I got a 4-3 regulation win for the VGK. I don't love it. If it goes to overtime and what's his name is back. The really good player for Colorado, Tony. Why am I drawing a blank right now? Who's
McKinnon?
Nathan McKinnon. That guy, McKinnon. Yeah, I couldn't remember Nathan McKinnon. Terrible. If it goes to overtime, he's going to be tough to stop.
When I think of Petro, I think of more. You said BP. I say Sinclair with like the dinosaur. No, Petro.
I live not too far from that dinosaur house in Henderson that the teacher has right off of off Greenway, a little bit north south, a little bit south of Horizon. So, you mentioned the dinosaur and all that, but all these minutes again, this is something that can't be ignored right now. And that's another reason why Aiden Hill should go tonight as well. Just all the minutes that the VGK players have been having. This is going to come back to bite at some points, and it is worth mentioning. And, I get the injuries in the last game. We can't hold that against the coach for, Nick Hague getting, I think he had a career high in minutes, I believe. And Pietrangelo was right around another 30-minute game or something like that. but at some point something's got to give right now. And I think at least on the forward fronts, you're going to have to put a little more trust and faith in line 3, and Paul Cotter coming back will be some bit of a stabilizer. I think assuming Cotter is back in tonight, I think Cotter slots in the line 3. I don't think you mess with line 1 right now. Amadio has earned the opportunity, at least until Eichel comes back and they reconsider retooling everything. But Paul Cotter might give some energy to that line 3, which you would think would be Lecision and Kessel. But honestly, I'll put another one out there right now. Kessel's going to have a healthy scratch this season at some point, and it might be sooner than later as VGK returns to health on the forward side.
I know that, again, Bruce Cassidy was talking about the way that Nick Waugh and everything was starting to come together on his line. And he said that they were playing the way that they played back in October, November. So he started to sense that they're playing much better. And in the game on Saturday, I found it interesting as well that Bruce Cassidy had said that the Vegas Golden Knights, despite trailing 2-0 in that game, he thought that they were doing a lot of things the right way. And he thought that they could break through. He felt very confident about that.
The first period wasn't bad, Tony. Like, it, you're watching and you're comfortable, right? There's other games where we're watching and you just feel like they're not in. Like the Silver Knights last night, they were down 1-0, down 2-0. They were not in that game. My son was tugging on me on my shoulder at 12 minutes left in the third. Let's get out of here. And we stayed a little bit longer, but we made it to about the 4 or 5 minute mark. They were never going to be in that game last night. Patera was the goalie. Very solid game. Not a good effort by the rest of the HSK, as Coach Viveros basically said the compete level was not there for a lot of the guys. Didn't call him out, but you could just tell by Viveros in the postgame he wasn't happy last night. But back to the Nashville VGK game, it didn't feel bad. VGK gets a goal, and I immediately saw they were plus 105. I jumped on that at that point. I jumped on plus 105, felt pretty good about it, and that stupid tying goal. And I'm glad I hadn't taken it in the match proper. I would have gotten my clock kicked in, so to speak, there. But they were in, it was okay. It was a fair start to the game. A couple weird goals, it just kind of happens, unfortunately. LT gave them a chance to win, and, they limped to the finish line that game, which, so what? 4 defensemen, they got the job done. They got 2 points. And Cody Glass got a nice return video, by the way. I want to acknowledge Cody Glass. Just such a good guy. Good guy. You'd hope he's gonna, find his legs, so to speak, in Nashville. And anyone in Vegas, should have nothing but appreciation for our first ever draft pick of the organization. And good on VGK for at least giving him about 15 seconds, but they acknowledged him. And it meant a lot to Cody Glass. It meant a lot to him just by his. If you watch Cody Glass for 30 seconds in an interview or just the way he is, you knew he was going to appreciate that.
I thought that it was interesting, too, the way that Coach Cassidy talked about how they're selecting players to bring up. And he said they haven't had a ton of time in season to evaluate the HSK.
It's a Keno ball. It's a Keno. It's a roulette wheel, Tony.
That's he just said that they go on the advice of the organization, the AHL team. And so that's how they're selecting players to come up. And
I like it.
Hopefully Brendan Brisson gets up at some point. He said that he missed a lot of time. No. Why not?
Brisson's not ready. He's not even close.
Wow.
Not even close.
Crazy.
We'll talk about that tomorrow. We're getting close here, but Brisson's not even close.
Okay. We thank a great point, and we will discuss that because I want to know more. We thank you all for tuning in. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. We appreciate you all tuning in, downloading the podcast, and of course, watching us on Locked On Golden Knights on YouTube. For my man, Chris Golick, one in the books for this year. I'm Tony Cardasco. We'll see you tomorrow right here on Locked On Golden Knights.